What did a 19-year-old young man do that completely transformed the life of one of the richest and most powerful men in the region? A miracle of the Virgin Mary that no one has been able to explain to this day. And it all began when everyone laughed at him for believing in the impossible. But before we continue, leave a comment saying where you are watching from and what time it is there right now. I would love to see how far the miracles of the Virgin Mary are reaching. Do you know that kind of man who solves everything with money? Who believes he can buy any solution, control any situation, bend the world to his will? William Carson was exactly that kind of man, 56 years old, a fortune built over 3 decades of relentless work. He started selling insurance in a tiny office in Chicago at 23. Today, he owned a company with offices in 9 states. But 4 months ago, William discovered something that all his money could not buy. Time. The first symptoms were subtle. A tiredness that wouldn't go away, even after 8 hours of sleep. Body aches that he ignored because men like William don't have time to get sick. Until Jennifer, his wife, put her foot down. "You need to see a doctor, now." The tests revealed the brutal truth, a serious condition that was progressing quickly, the kind that changes everything in a second. The doctors were direct in the way only very experienced doctors can be, a few months, maybe less. William tried everything. Of course he did. He flew to specialized clinics, consulted the best specialists money could pay for. Experimental protocols that cost more than most people earn in their entire lives. Nothing worked. The disease progressed, fast, relentless. Like water rising during a flood, you see it happening, but you can't stop it. Now the life William had built, meetings, trips, decisions that moved fortunes, had shrunk until it fit inside a single room. A suite in the house in Connecticut transformed into a care space, hospital bed, medical equipment everywhere, a private nurse during the day, a doctor visiting 3 times a week. Jennifer did everything she could. She stayed with him. They talked about the old days, watched movies. But you could see it in her eyes, that fear. That anticipatory pain of someone who is already preparing to lose. His brother Thomas visited every week, always with conversations about the company, about the transition of leadership, about getting things ready for when you're no longer here, as if the end had already been decided, and maybe it had. William was not religious, he never had been. He grew up in a family where reason came before anything else. Parents who valued facts, numbers, things that could be proven. But there was something that troubled him in the quiet hours of the early morning, when Jennifer slept beside him and the house was in absolute silence. It wasn't fear of pain, it was fear of what came after, of the unknown, of the emptiness that might exist or might not exist. William had controlled everything in life, but he could not control this, and that lack of control was almost worse than the disease itself. Have you ever felt that? That sensation that things are slipping through your fingers and there is absolutely nothing you can do. Margaret Coleman was 42 years old and had worked as the person responsible for the Carson household for 4 years. But calling Margaret the person responsible for the house was unfair. She coordinated everything: cleaning, maintenance, shopping, suppliers. She knew exactly how the family liked every detail, how Jennifer preferred the flowers arranged, what temperature William liked in his office. She had that rare talent of making a massive house function as if by magic, everything always perfect, always in the right place, always at the right time. Over the last 4 years, she had become an essential part of the household. Jennifer trusted her completely. But the last 4 months had been especially challenging, seeing William, who had always been so full of energy, in that condition. Seeing Jennifer trying to be strong but falling apart on the inside. Margaret did what she could. She kept the house running perfectly, coordinated the care, made sure everything was always spotless. But she felt powerless because there was nothing she could do. Margaret had faith. She always had. Catholic since childhood. She went to Mass every Sunday without fail. She prayed the rosary every night before going to sleep. That faith was what had kept Margaret standing. Through the moments when she thought she wouldn't be able to start over. Through the nights when she wondered if she had made the right decisions. Lucas Coleman was 19 years old and still lived with his mother. He was in his second year of community college. He studied electrical engineering, but still wasn't sure if that was really what he wanted. He worked part-time at a mechanic's shop to help with the bills. Lucas was quiet. He always had been. In school, he was the kid who stayed in the corner. Few friends, many books. He preferred fixing things to talking to people. But he had inherited something very strong from his mother. Deep faith. His father passed away when Lucas was 15, a sudden heart attack that caught everyone by surprise. The family never recovered financially, but Lucas had clung to his faith. He believed with absolute conviction that there were greater forces in the universe. That prayer worked. That miracles happened. His classmates in college thought it was strange. A 19-year-old guy who spoke openly about faith, who carried a rosary in his pocket. Different, unusual. Some mocked him behind his back. Lucas didn't care. He knew what he believed, and no opinion was going to change that. That Thursday in June, Lucas had the day off from the shop. Margaret had asked for help with something heavy at the Carsons' house, some furniture that needed to be rearranged. "Do you mind coming with me?" she asked at breakfast. "Of course, Mom." The Carson house wasn't an over-the-top mansion, but it was big, very big, with that kind of perfectly maintained garden that screams money without even trying. Lucas helped his mother with the furniture. It took less than an hour. When they finished, Margaret offered lunch. "Very good lasagna. Do you want to eat here?" "That works." They ate in the huge kitchen. Lucas had never been there before. He was impressed by the size, everything gleaming, everything expensive. He was finishing his meal when he heard voices coming from the hallway. Adults talking in that serious tone adults use when things are important. Lucas looked at his mother. "Are there a lot of people here today?" "It's a meeting about family matters," Margaret said softly. "Mr. Carson is very sick. They're organizing things." Lucas nodded. He knew that tone. He had heard similar conversations when his father was in the hospital, adults preparing for the worst. He got up to put his plate in the sink when he heard something that made him stop. A male voice, hoarse, tired, but with that hardness of someone used to giving orders. "I don't want to hear about alternative treatments anymore. I've spent millions. I've consulted everyone worth consulting. If medicine doesn't have an answer, then there is no answer. Simple as that." Lucas stood still. Something in that voice, that resignation, that despair hidden behind anger, touched something in him. "Mom," Lucas said softly, "who is that man?" "That's Mr. Carson, the owner of the house." "Is he very sick?" Margaret hesitated. "Very. The doctors aren't giving him much time." Lucas touched the rosary in his pocket, the rosary his father had given him, the one Lucas had carried every day since then. Can I talk to him?" Margaret's eyes widened. "Lucas, no." "You can't. Just 1 minute, please." "Lucas, it's not our place. He's with his family, discussing serious things." "I know, but I need to talk to him. Just 1 minute." Margaret knew that look in her son's eyes. When he decided something, he was as stubborn as his father had been. "All right, but quickly. And if they tell you to leave, you leave. Deal?" "Deal." Lucas followed the voices down the hallway, thick carpet muffling footsteps, paintings on the walls. That smell of an expensive home, leather furniture, fresh flowers, professional cleaning. The voices were coming from a bedroom, door half open, bright light spilling out. Lucas took a deep breath. He touched the rosary in his pocket and knocked on the door. "Excuse me?" The conversation stopped. Everyone turned. 4 adults gathered around a hospital bed, and in that bed, a man who looked like he had aged decades in months, far too thin, pale, sunken eyes, but still sharp. A blonde, middle-aged woman, probably the wife, looked surprised. "You are Lucas Coleman, Margaret's son. Sorry to interrupt, but I need to speak with Mr. Carson." An older man, a brother Lucas guessed by the resemblance, stepped forward. "Kid, we're in the middle of an important meeting." "I know, and I'll be quick, but it's important." William, in the bed, studied Lucas with those tired but still intense eyes. "Speak." Lucas stepped forward, straight to the point. Like his father had taught him, when you have something important to say, you say it directly. "I know you're very sick, and I know you've already tried everything medicine has to offer. And I want to pray for you, to the Virgin Mary, every day until you get better." Silence. Complete. Absolute. No one moved. The wife blinked, unsure how to react. The brother opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, and then someone laughed. A nervous, uncomfortable laugh that shattered the tension like breaking glass. "Pray?" The woman in the suit, a lawyer probably, repeated, a condescending smile on her face. "How interesting." The accountant beside her held back a laugh, but you could see it in his eyes, that glint of barely contained amusement. Thomas, the brother, was more direct. "Kid, with all due respect, we're dealing with reality here, not fairy tales." "But I believe it can work." "Of course you do," the lawyer interrupted. "And it's very sweet of you to offer, but we're focusing on practical things right now." More laughter. Quiet. At the 19-year-old boy who thought prayer could fix what millions of dollars couldn't. William looked at Lucas, that young man believing completely, absolutely, in what he was saying. And something inside him felt anger, because 19-year-olds could afford to believe in miracles. Adults knew faith didn't cure serious illness. Money tried, medicine tried, and sometimes even that wasn't enough. "Kid," William said, his voice hoarse, "I appreciate the intention, but I don't believe in prayers. I don't believe in miracles. I believe in facts. And the fact is, I'm dying. No prayer is going to change that." Lucas didn't back down. He looked straight into William's eyes. "Have you tried?" "Tried what?" "Believing. Praying. Letting something greater than you help." "There's nothing greater than me," William said, and you could feel decades of control in that sentence. "There's only what I can do, and I've done everything." "Then let me do it for you." Lucas pulled the rosary from his pocket, that rosary of dark wooden beads worn from use. "This belonged to my father. He passed away 4 years ago. But before that, he taught me that faith moves mountains, that the Virgin Mary listens to those who ask with a sincere heart." Thomas let out a loud laugh. "Oh yeah? And did it work for your father?" The comment was cruel, intentional, designed to hurt. Lucas felt the blow, but he didn't look away. "Not in the way I wanted, but he passed in peace, without fear, because he believed he wasn't alone, that something greater was waiting for him." "Very comforting, but it doesn't change the fact that he died." "We will all leave someday," Lucas replied. "The difference is how we live while we're here, with fear or with faith." William felt something tighten in his chest. That boy, with all his conviction. "Boy, Lucas," he corrected. "My name is Lucas." "Lucas, I respect your faith, but I don't share it. Thank you for the offer, but no." "I'm going to pray anyway," Lucas said, "every day, even if you don't believe, because I believe enough for both of us." And before anyone could respond, he turned and left. He left the room in a strange silence. After a few seconds, the laughter returned, louder now that the boy was gone. "Well," the lawyer said, "at least it was entertaining." "Young people," the accountant muttered, "still believes in Santa Claus, probably." Thomas shook his head. "Still living in a fairy tale. The world is going to be hard on him. But William didn't laugh. He lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about that young man with eyes full of conviction. "I believe enough for both of us." When was the last time someone had believed in something like that for him? In the hallway, Margaret met Lucas. Her face was a mix of concern and something else. Pride, perhaps. What happened? "I offered to pray for him. They laughed at me." "Oh, Lucas." "It's okay, Mom. I expected it." He touched the rosary in his pocket. "But I'm going to pray anyway, every day." Margaret hugged her son, that tight hug of a proud mother. "You're just like your father." "I know." That night, in the small apartment they shared, Lucas prayed, kneeling beside the bed, hands clasped, rosary between his fingers. "Virgin Mary, please help Mr. Carson. He's very sick. He's afraid, even if he won't admit it, and he doesn't believe that you can help, so I believe for him. Please show that miracles are real. Amen." Simple, direct, sincere. Margaret watched from the doorway, her heart heavy, her son so full of faith. He still hadn't learned that the world doesn't always work that way, that prayers aren't always answered the way we want. She herself had prayed for her husband, entire nights in the hospital, begging, bargaining, promising anything, and he had gone anyway. But she wouldn't take that faith away from her son. She wouldn't destroy that conviction. She let him believe. "Good night, my son. Sleep well." "Good night, Mom." Lucas fell asleep. That peaceful sleep of someone who believes that miracles happen and that good always wins in the end. Meanwhile, in the silent house in Connecticut, William lay in the dark. Jennifer slept beside him. The whole house silent. Only the low hum of medical equipment. William thought about that young man, about those convinced eyes, that faith, that absolute certainty, that prayer would solve everything. "I'm going to pray every day." As if it were that simple. William had spent millions on treatments. Nothing had worked. And that boy thought prayer would fix it. Ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. William almost laughed. But he was too tired even for that. He closed his eyes, tried to sleep, but the boy's voice kept echoing. And William, who had spent 56 years believing in nothing but what he could control, felt something strange. Not hope, not exactly, but curiosity. What if that boy was right? A week later, on a Tuesday, something strange began to happen. William woke up feeling different, not better exactly, but less tired, with a bit more energy than he'd had over the past few months. The nurse noticed it first while checking his vital signs. "Mr. Carson, your color looks better today." "Does it?" William looked at his own hands, maybe a little less pale. Hard to tell. Jennifer came in with tea, that morning ritual they kept even when he could barely drink it. "Your eyes are brighter," she said, gently touching his face. "Did you sleep well?" William had slept. For the first time in weeks, 5 straight hours without waking up in pain or nausea. "I think so." "That's wonderful, dear." Jennifer kissed his forehead. That kiss, full of desperate hope. 3 days later, Dr. Patterson came for the weekly visit. Tall, gray-haired, in his early 60s. One of the best doctors William had managed to hire. He came from Boston twice a week specifically to follow the case. He checked the vital signs as always, blood pressure, temperature, oxygenation, performed a complete physical exam. He stopped, frowned, checked again. Reflexes, sensitivity, strength in the hands. "Any change in the protocol?" he asked the nurse, his voice neutral, but the curiosity was noticeable. "None, doctor. Everything exactly the same as the last few weeks." "Doctor?" Patterson looked at William again, studying him, analyzing him like someone seeing something that shouldn't be there. "Your color is better, less yellowing of the skin, clearer eyes. Have you been eating?" "A little more than before." "And your energy? How do you feel?" "Better. Much better. I managed to sit in the chair yesterday for almost an hour." Dr. Patterson nodded slowly. That kind of movement doctors make when they're processing information that doesn't line up with what they expected. I'm going to order new tests. I want to see all the markers, but clinically, he hesitated. You are visibly better than you were last week. What does that mean? Jennifer asked, her hand squeezing William's. It means something has changed. I don't know what yet. We need the tests to understand it better, but it's a positive change. Definitely positive. After everyone left, William was alone with his thoughts. Improvement? Coincidence? It had to be. The body making that last effort before the end? Probably. William looked out the window, outside, summer at its peak. Trees completely green, flowers all over the garden, and somewhere deep in his mind, a small voice whispered, "What if? What if that boy?" No. Ridiculous. But Dr. Patterson had seemed genuinely surprised, and he wasn't a doctor who was easily surprised. William shook his head. He was overthinking. It was just a fluctuation. It would pass. But 3 days later, on Friday, the test results came back. Dr. Patterson called personally, the kind of call doctors only make when there's something important. "Mr. Carson, I need to come by today. We have to talk about the results." "Are they bad?" William asked, bracing for the worst. "No, the opposite, actually. But I need to confirm a few things." Dr. Patterson arrived an hour later. He entered the room with a folder full of papers. That expression doctors have when they're seeing something they can't fully explain. "The results," he began, spreading the papers on the small table beside the bed, "show improvement in practically all the markers." Improvement? Yes. The levels have stabilized. Some have even regressed, especially here, he said, pointing to a graph. Dr. Patterson took off his glasses, cleaned them, and put them back on. In 30 years of medicine, I've seen this happen maybe 4 times. Cases where the condition simply stops progressing with no identifiable cause. After the doctor left, William remained seated in the chair by the window. He was alone with his thoughts. Unexplainable improvement. No identifiable cause. The boy's voice echoed in his mind, "I will pray every day." Could it be? No. Coincidence. It had to be. But the doubt had been planted. Small, persistent, slowly growing. The following week, something unexpected happened. Margaret was working in the kitchen when William appeared, not in a wheelchair, not being carried, walking, slowly, supported, but walking. "Mr. Carson," Margaret dropped what she was doing, "you shouldn't be resting, I know." William leaned against the counter. "But I got tired of lying down. I needed to feel like I'm still human." Margaret smiled. "Can I get you something? Tea? Soup?" "Actually?" William hesitated. That hesitation of someone about to ask for something they're not used to asking. "Your son, Lucas, is he still praying?" Margaret blinked, surprised. "He is, every day, never misses." "Even after everyone laughed at him?" "Even then. He does it because he believes, not because he expects recognition." William stayed quiet for a moment, staring out the kitchen window. "Is he here today?" "No, sir. He's working, but he's coming tomorrow to help me with a few things." "When he comes," William paused, "could you ask him to come upstairs? I want to talk to him." Margaret nodded, trying to hide her surprise. The next day, Lucas arrived early. He helped his mother with the chores, some repairs, stock organization, the kind of work that required young, strong arms. When they finished, Margaret said softly, "Mr. Carson wants to talk to you." Lucas's eyes widened. "Me? Why?" "I don't know, but he asked specifically." Lucas went up the stairs. His heart beat a little faster. He knocked on the door. "Come in." William was sitting in the chair by the window, dressed in regular clothes, not hospital pajamas, still thin, still pale, but visibly better than weeks before. "Lucas, right?" "Yes, sir." "Sit." William pointed to the other chair. Lucas sat down, nervous but trying to hide it. William remained silent for a moment, studying the boy, those eyes still full of conviction. "Are you still praying for me?" "I am, every day. Like I promised." "Why?" "I was rude to you. You don't owe me anything." Lucas thought about the question. "It's not about owing. It's about doing what's right. My father taught me that we help people not because we'll gain something, but because that's how the world should work." William felt something tighten in his chest. That simplicity. "My doctor says I'm getting better." Inexplicably. Is the Virgin Mary listening, or is it coincidence? "It could be," Lucas admitted. "But do you believe in that?" William didn't answer right away. Did he believe? In recent weeks, he had found himself thinking about that a lot. "I don't know what I believe in," he finally said, "but I know something is different." Lucas smiled, not the kind of smile that says, "I told you so," but something gentler, more hopeful. "I can show you how to pray, if you want." "I don't know how to pray. No one is born knowing. We learn." William hesitated. His entire life had been built on rationality, on things he could control and measure. But here he was, getting better without explanation, and a 19-year-old offering to teach him something that could, maybe, be making a difference. "All right," he said, "teach me." Lucas smiled wider and stood up. He walked over to William, held out his hand. "First, we join hands. It doesn't have to be in any special way. Just join them. Now close your eyes. And talk to the Virgin Mary as if she were here. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be sincere." William closed his eyes, feeling ridiculous, but he did it anyway. "Virgin Mary," Lucas began, his voice clear and calm, "thank you for listening to my prayers. Thank you for helping Mr. William. Please keep taking care of him. Show him that he is not alone, that he never has been. Amen." "Amen," William repeated, the word strange in his mouth. He opened his eyes. Lucas was smiling. "That's it. Now you can do it on your own, too, whenever you want." "Is that all?" "That's it. It doesn't have to be complicated. Faith isn't about the right words. It's about a sincere heart." William stayed there and, for the first time in 4 months, felt something different from despair, not certainty, not yet, but possibility. "Thank you," he said, and surprised himself by saying it sincerely, "for not giving up on me. I'll never give up. I promised I'd pray every day, and I'm going to keep that promise." After Lucas left, William stayed there sitting, looking at his own hands. Was it worth trying? That night, alone in the dark after Jennifer fell asleep, William did something he had never done in his adult life. He tried to pray, awkward, not knowing if he was doing it right. "I don't know if there's anyone listening. I don't know if this works, but that boy believes. And he's praying for me every day without asking for anything in return. So, if you really are listening, help me, please. I don't know if I deserve it, but help me." Nothing happened. No divine light, no voice from the heavens, just silence. But William felt a little less alone, and for now, that was enough. In the weeks that followed, something inexplicable kept happening. William kept improving, not dramatically, but gradually, consistently, relentlessly in the right direction. The energy returned little by little. His appetite increased. William managed to get out of bed, walk around the room, go down the stairs. That Friday, when Lucas came to help his mother, William asked to see him again. Lucas went upstairs, but this time he found William standing by the window, without support, just standing, looking at the garden. "Mr. William, you're standing?" "I am, and walking. This morning I went down the stairs by myself." Lucas smiled that radiant smile. The Virgin Mary listened. William turned, looked at the young man, and for the first time he didn't feel the urge to rationalize, to explain scientifically. He simply accepted it. "Thank you," he said, and the word carried the weight of months, for continuing to pray even when I doubted, even when everyone laughed. William felt his eyes burn, for the first time in decades, tears threatening to fall. "You are a special young man, Lucas." "I'm not. I just do what I think is right." William pulled Lucas into a hug, that tight hug of deep gratitude. Lucas hugged him back with all the strength of his 19 years. When they parted, William said, "Come, I want to show you something." He led Lucas to the window, pointed down to the garden below. "Do you see that space there, near the trees?" "Yes. I'm going to turn that into a community space, with tables, barbecue grills, an area for children to play. I want the employees to use it, to bring their families. I want this place to have life, joy." "Why?" "Because you reminded me of something I had forgotten, that there are things more important than money, more important than control. You reminded me to be human." Lucas said nothing. He just smiled. 6 months later, William was in the garden, standing without assistance, completely alone, observing the community space he had built, tables full of employees having lunch with their families, children running and playing, laughter filling the air, life everywhere. Lucas was there too, helping organize a barbecue, Margaret coordinating everything with her characteristic efficiency. Jennifer stood beside William, her hand in his. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "I am. Better than I've been in years." The latest tests had shown continued remission. Dr. Patterson had finally used the word, remission, not cured. The condition was still there, dormant, but controlled, stable. William had time. How much, no one knew, but more than the doctors had predicted. "Was it the boy?" Jennifer asked. "The prayers?" William thought about the question. "I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe it doesn't matter." "What do you mean?" "What matters is that that young man reminded me of something I had forgotten, that there are forces in the universe I can't control or explain, and that's okay, that sometimes you just need to have faith." Jennifer kissed his cheek. "I love you." "I love you too." Lucas approached, smiling. "Mr. William, the barbecue is almost ready. Are you coming?" "I am." The three of them walked together toward the tables. William stopped halfway, looked around. All that movement, all that life. That night, after everyone had gone home, William went up to the bedroom, sat in the chair by the window where he had spent so many hours during his darkest moments. And he prayed. Not perfectly, still a bit awkward, still learning, but he prayed. Giving thanks for the extra time, for second chances, for that young man who refused to stop believing when everyone else laughed. And sometimes, in the silence, William felt something. Just a presence, warm, welcoming, saying without words, "You are not alone, you never were." And William, who had spent his entire life believing in nothing except what he could control, finally understood that some miracles happen in places numbers can't reach, in faith, in prayer, in a 19-year-old young man who believed when no one else did. Before finishing, I want to invite you to be part of our Virgin Mary prayer community, a space of faith and hope where people from all over the world come together to pray and share graces received. If you feel in your heart the desire to be part of this chain of prayer, click below and become a channel member today and come pray with us. And if you made it this far, to the very end of William and Lucas's story, do one thing for me. Write in the comments, "I believe," the words a young man said when everyone else doubted. I want to see how many hearts this story truly reached. And every time I read "I believe" in the comments, I'll know that one more person understands that miracles of the Virgin Mary still happen. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs renewed hope today. May the Virgin Mary continue blessing and protecting you and your family. Amen.